five khandhas are part of the world. The physical body comes from the world, goes back to the world. The physical body acts as the base for the other khandhas: feeling, memory, thought, consciousness. Those four depend on the body. Without the body they won't work. And when a person dies, those disappear. They die with the body. But the chitta doesn't. Chitta is it's the boss, if you like. It's the thing that matters the whole time. The chitta is really the essence of Buddhism. And the chitta is the one that is the commander, the one that pushes the khandhas about, makes them do things. But it only does that when there's avijja there. There's a form of ignorance. And then it pushes the khandhas about to do bad things sometimes, and if Dhamma comes up, good things. If the person becomes arahant, then the bad side of it disappears, and it's the Dhamma that comes up. And the Dhamma then uses the khandhas to do something good, something helpful, to teach, to help people in other ways, as we find the Ajahns doing it. The Ajahns like Tanashan Mahabua, he does this sort of thing. He helps people. And this is the Dhamma coming out in the khandhas, which are still there. But when the Arahant dies, the khandhas disappear. It's the same way they do with the ordinary person. But the chitta then disappears from the world, and because it becomes nibbana. It's gone back home then. But the nature of the chitta, if you want to know what it is, the only thing you can say is emptiness. It's nothing in the world is like it. There's no comparable thing. And there's no analogy you can really give for it. The thing is, the chitta is the one that, let's say, knows Nibbana. It is Nibbana. But it's been usurped by avijja, the ignorance, not knowing. Because of the not knowing, it's been pushed into doing things in the world, in that direction. And when it does things in the world, it gets caught up in the world, gets trapped, and it can't see anything else but the world. And it builds up the five senses in people and animals. And when the five senses are there, the five senses see nothing but the world at all. And they're caught up in the world. And when that happens, then there's absolutely no hope of getting to Nibbana, until one can learn to overcome the wanting that arises in these states. If one overcomes the wanting, then the attachments overcome. The attachments drop away. If the attachments drop away, then there's nothing to stop the chitta going in the direction of Nibbana. But it requires that one stops all attachments, not just some.
renounce those desires,
Yeah.
the grasping for the world. Often it's hard to bring up the energy to say no to craving of some kind.
Yes, that's true. It is difficult. But the thing is, one's got to learn to look at things right. And if you look at them right, you'll see what this world is. And if you see what this world is, you'll have something inside you will turn against it. And when you've got that happening, then if you foster that, it'll tend to overcome the craving to go back to the world. Because going back to the world means that one gives way to the kilesas. And one wants to go back and have a good time, go into a pub and have a beer, do all these other things in the world. And people like that sort of thing. They like doing it. But really speaking, if they look carefully, they'll find that the result that comes from these things is just dukkha, just discontent. They get discontented, and then they get afraid because they're either not well, or they're getting old, and they're likely to die, and the discontent piles on them as they get older. And then they don't know where they are, they're in a mess. And the dukkha becomes much stronger. Quite likely to go like that. One can go against it by thinking. If you find the practice very difficult, try thinking about what it means if you don't do the practice. Try thinking about what way one's going to go. Try thinking what will it be when I die if I don't get through in this practice. Where are you going to be reborn? We don't know. I mean, this time I think most people here have had quite a reasonable and good rebirth. But we can't be sure that it'll always be like that, because we don't know our karma. We don't know what our karma is in the past. A lot of it's probably good. But there may be some bad patches there that we don't know about. And what happens if that comes up? We've got to think like that. And I think that I've got to overcome this, these kilesas, this dukkha.
What point do you see the nature of the dukkha? Is that when you enter Sotapanna, or is that when you go into deep samadhi?
The thing is, if one can get some success in samadhi, one will realize that is sukha. When you realize that's sukha, then you want to do it more. I mean, it's true, I think, with most people that if they have a particular time in the day when they always do the meditation practice, they find that that time the mind takes on the attitude of meditation, and it comes much more easily. Because your habit is to have the mind in a state of meditation at that time. So in order to help one's practice, one can make times when they're suitable, when you always do the practice. You may do it at other times also, but you always do it at those special times. And this can help a lot, because it becomes a habit, and the habit can help you. You can't see the chitta, because the chitta that does the seeing.
At what point do you actually realize?
One can realize it at any point, really. If one only knows how to look at it. Looking at it is only a way of speaking here. If one realizes it, you can know at any time.
Would you say this point is like entering the stream, so to say?
Oh no, not necessarily. If one enters a stream, Sotapanna, you may know what the chitta is after that. Or you may not.
How would you describe entering the stream in ordinary language?
I don't know. The thing is, there may be many ways, I'm not sure. What?
Entering the stream, like there must happen something there. So at what point do you actually see it? How do you think this?
The only way is to get there and see it for yourself. Then you'll know.
How will you know?
By the experience. By what changes. I mean, we know things because we see the changes that take place.
What will change?
Where one has the kilesas, these are sort of thick kilesas, probably those kilesas will be thinned down or disappear. And that'll be obvious. Become quite obvious to the person.
Could you give an example?
Well, a person has a lot of doubt, and if they get to the stage of Sotapanna, they go through it, that doubt disappears completely. Because they've seen the result. When I say seeing, you don't see anything actually, but you see anything because it isn't something you can see, but you know it. I mean, the seeing in this case is, we use it because this is a sort of idiom as we have, but it's more experiencing.
When you said the gist about seeing, when I think about seeing the way, I always think of consciousness. Could you say something about consciousness?
Consciousness is when the chitta associates with an object. In other words, you get the three things coming up. The object, the sense organ, and consciousness. And the chitta is really the two coming together, the consciousness and the object. Oh no, I got it the wrong way. The consciousness is the chitta coming together with the object. It's the right way around. Because vijnana, the name is very suggestive. Jnana is like intuitive wisdom, intuitive knowing. Vi is to divide, so it's divided knowing, subject and object. But it does that, and by the nature of things, it's impermanent, and immediately dies away. If the object is still there, it'll arise again and die away. It goes back and forward like that. When it dies away, it reverts to just being the chitta. When the chitta becomes associated with an object, and we call it consciousness, it's doing the duty of consciousness at that time, It's acting in with the khandhas. In other words, it vitalizes the khandhas. Two, right?
Does the chitta then arise in each moment and fall away in the same way as consciousness?
When the chitta is associated with the kilesas, yes, it rises and drops away. When it's associated with the khandhas, it does the same. It's all the time. It's going up and down. It's changing, because it must change. The khandhas are something of this world, and they're inherently impermanent. So the chitta can't remain fixed in that situation. Chitta is the puru, it is the one that knows. The chitta is the one that knows, for example, if a person gets Alzheimer's disease, in which their memory goes, they still know. Knowing is still there. Consciousness is still working, but they can't make sense of anything because there's no memory. How can avoid sense self-view? The chitta is probably the one that gives rise to the idea of self, and it's not incorrect that. As long as one realizes that the self is not an entity, and it's not permanent. The self is a changing thing. The Buddha never said there was no self. He said that there's no entity of self which is permanent. I mean, you can say that there is a self. There's almost bound to be. That's our experience. But if we look at it, we'll see that self isn't the same thing for 2 moments together. It's changing all the time.
Intellectual understanding counts as Brahma-Vichaya?
Yeah.
Does intellectual understanding count as Brahma-Vichaya, the second factor in life?
Collectual.
Intellectual.
Intellectual.
Counts as Dhamma-Vichaya.
Dhamma-Vichaya, I'm not sure. My Pali's not that good.
Investigation of Dhamma.
Yes.
Does intellectual understanding imply that one's doing investigation of Dhamma?
Oh, I see. Yes, it's doing it at the level of Suttamaya Pañña. You've got the 3 types of Pañña. It's Chintamaya Pañña should be. You've got the first one, which is Suttamaya Pañña, which is either reading or hearing from a teacher, or whatever it is. The second level, which is Chintamaya Pañña, one thinks about it, examines it, one uses the intellect and comes to understand it. The third level is Bhavanamaya Pañña, which is the actual realization that takes place because of the practice. Because of that, the Chintamaya Pañña is the thinking about it, looking at it, examining, seeing how it works, trying to find where in one's own experience one's seen this. And this is all good Dhamma. The only thing is one must be careful to do things in the right order. A lot of people need to develop Samadhi first as the basis. If one goes into wisdom too quickly, one might not have enough of the basis there. and it won't work very well. In fact, it can even be a bit dangerous. Of course, if your samadhi is good, then you can go and do the practice of wisdom, and there's no harm in it at all. It's perfectly all right.
Do you believe that a Sotapanna is not able to kill even insects with intention? Is that true?
I don't know.
I heard this before. I just wondered if this is for all Sotapannas across the board.
I'm not sure really. I mean, people like to say this, but for myself I'm a bit doubtful about it. I'm doubtful whether that's a classification as a Sotapanna. I don't know, can they kill deliberately? Well, I can say it wouldn't come up very often, I think. If you've got a gnat buzzing around your ears, you may go like that, you see, and may kill it. I don't know.
Slightly different topic, but what practices would you recommend to cultivate humility?
To cultivate
Humility.
humility. Oh, look at the body. Think, what am I? And you look at this body and you see what it is. Bones and skin and flesh and blood. What are these things? They're just parts of this world. It's the way to get humility. One sees what one is. One sees, look at what I've grasped at. This mess. It's very effective, that. These things, humility, to see what the body is. And at first it doesn't strike home. But as you do it more and more, times come when you start seeing it. You suddenly realize, this arm, is that really mine? And it looks peculiar. It's as though you see it as something quite separate. And you begin to realize that this body here, it's a thing I shouldn't think of it as being big or good or something superior or anything of that sort. It's rather that one feels somewhat ashamed that one's grasped at this sort of thing. There's plenty in the body to work on to develop humility.
Would you say that cultivating metta bhavana is suitable for deepening into meditative absorption?
Cultivating metta bhavana is a good practice. There's nothing wrong in it. The Acharyas generally don't recommend it as a specific practice. I like Tanashamota Mahabodhi never recommends it as a specific practice. The reason being that metta tends to act a bit like a magnet. It attracts people. And the person who's practicing doesn't want too many people coming round. But Tanatara says you must have metta. And if you do the practice of anapana or buddho and you get success, the metta will come automatically. You can see why. If you do that practice and you become calm and you're happy in that state, and you have a happy state there, there's no reason why we shouldn't have metta there. It's automatically there. one goes on cultivating it, it's a powerful thing, and it can act like a magnet. For the person who finds that anger comes up in them a lot, metta will probably be good for that person. Because it's the opposite. But one thing I found when I was in England, there are quite a lot of people who look on themselves as being metta broadcasting stations. And this is not the way. You must avoid any practice which tends to arouse anger, and probably the best way is just to do Anapana or the Buddha practice. And if you do that, it at least gives not much scope for the anger to arise. Anger can arise there, of course, I know. But it isn't a practice which digs up the anger. Also, the person with a lot of anger should avoid things that are thoroughly unpleasant. I mean, if you're in a place that's dirty and sort of smells bad, the angry person, it just rouses up more anger. Whereas the greedy person doesn't like it. It gives no scope for greed.
Do you have any other suggestions in Samadhi that sometimes this walk is not so productive?
Yeah, of course, there's plenty of others, really. I mean, you've got all the 42 kamatanas. But the trouble is, a lot of them need a teacher. I mean, we read about the kashinas and things of that sort, but one hasn't got a teacher of them, and it's hard to find teachers who really know about that practice. It's said that they do tend to arouse psychic powers, which are always a danger, and most of them, they avoid it now. But one can also do a contemplation of the Buddha, Dhamma or Sangha, and see the virtues of the Buddha and the value of the Dhamma and the Sangha. And this can help to overcome anger. How I can't hear. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the books, if you do them as practices, the books always say the first one you have to do is metta, and then you can go on to karuna, mudita, upekkha. But the thing is, the people inherently tend to have something of the Brahma-viharas in them anyway, and they can cultivate those. You can see what they are. I mean, metta is to have the idea that other people are much like myself, and I shouldn't criticize and have hate for these people. One should have friendliness for them. Karuna is seeing the suffering of other people and feeling as though one wants to take it on oneself. It's often seeing the suffering and being able to do nothing. That also is karuna. Mudita is one that is often lacking in people. It's the gladness seeing somebody else developing, or even in getting rich, if one goes that way. And one's glad instead of being envious, and it overcomes envy. And this is something that a lot of people are lacking in. And they sort of say, "Oh, he's got on. Why the heck can't I get on? I should be there." So they're envious of us. And mudita is quite important because of that. Upekkha is more obvious. It's the complete equanimity, complete sort of calm state where you see people's karma, and you say, well, this is just the result of their karma. They've created this situation, and that's that. The Brahmavihara Viharas as a practice very powerful. But they don't directly go in the direction of Nibbana.
Why is it not good to be a metta broadcasting station?
There's nothing wrong if you can do it. Most people think they can do it and they can't. I mean, because they think that they're broadcasting to people, and really it's just conceit. That's all. I mean, the person, if they think like that, they're probably not broadcasting to anything, not even themselves, because it's the wrong idea they've got. And the person who really can have metta, he doesn't care whether he broadcasts or not. Doesn't matter, because the metta is there and that's sufficient. In fact, it does have quite an effect on people.
So do you mean when you make that statement that there's a certain self-conscious quality that people have that they're kind of pushing metta as being a practice rather than something else like
Yeah, people do tend to get that. They sort of think, oh, I have metta for everybody, or they sort of think of people and as though they're going to, as though they're above that person and they're going to give metta to them, like some sort of angel or deity. That's just conceit, nothing else. Conceit's a bad one too. Conceit is a thing which sort of pushes the ego up high. And when it comes down, it hurts. It usually comes down with a bang. Buddha said one should be like the earth. The earth doesn't matter what you put on it. Put dirt on it, put gold on it. It doesn't make any difference.
When you have to deal with people, sometimes people come to you with a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes people might come angry to you. Do you find that these effects on the citta? And how do you deal with that?
If you're dealing with people like that, yes, it obviously has an effect on one's citta. But one has to watch out that it doesn't have a bad effect. Because if one gets angry with the people coming, of course that's bad. Sometimes one feels sorry for the people, and that doesn't matter really, because some people come with problems, and you just feel, there's nothing you can do about that problem at all. Nothing you can do, nothing they can do as well sometimes. The thing is, if you have too many people coming to you, the time comes when you have to escape.
That would be a time to sort of let go of the effect.
Yes, one goes off on to do one's own practice, goes off to the jungles or somewhere like that.
And you practices like anapanasati would just help you to sort of let go of the effect.
Yes, that can help. Yes, yes. I mean, for the arahant, obviously, he's gone right beyond all that. It doesn't affect him. Because if I got it right, the arahant has broken up bhavanga. Bhavanga's gone. There's no longer relinking from the past to the future. Because of that, the arahant doesn't pull up the past all the time. Every moment is taken as a moment. Feeling and memory. Oh, they're two separate khandhas. Feeling is the tester. It's the one when something comes up, you test whether you like it or don't like it. Memory is the identifier. It identifies what the thing is.
What we call a feeling body is a part of memory.
No, it's experience of feeling. And because we think in terms of bodies, which is memory, we then can identify a feeling body. Feeling body is the one comes to in the second of the Satipatthanas. In other words, one uses that the feeling to see that this body one knows by feeling.
What practices would you recommend for developing patience?
Patience.
What have you used?
Waiting for the dentist is good patience. Patience is really the readiness to wait without criticism. You should see the Indians, how patient they are. They want a job, and they'll sit on your doorstep, and every time they come past, they say, "Sir," like that. and they try to wear you down. They've certainly got plenty of patience. I don't know if it does them much good though. Patience is a valuable thing at times. It's a necessary thing too. If one has the patience, one can go on doing a practice where one expects results, but one's quite prepared to have the patience to wait for them to come, as they will. And this is necessary, because if you're aiming for Nibbana, or we don't know Nibbana, or we don't realize it, so we don't know what to aim for. And we have to do practices which we take on the recommendation of the Buddha and the teachers, and we have to go on doing that practice, and we don't know whether that's we're getting nearer to Nibbana or not. We just have to go on doing it. We have to have patience to do that. And the opposite of patience is really when one either gets greedy for results quickly, and the person who is greedy for results might end up taking drugs, for instance. Or the person who gets angry because they don't get results, and then they sort of turn to something else with a bang, like that. Both are the wrong ways. To increase patience and to develop it, you really need to keep a watch on your mind. Mindfulness is really the thing there. Because if you're mindful, you can see what's coming up in yourself, and if it's hatred, then you can avoid it, because you see it. It doesn't come up just automatically. If it's greed, you can equally well see it and avoid it. So the practice of mindfulness will help greatly with patience. So I'm not sure that patience will help with mindfulness. Any more?
We have a tradition of rejoicing in the Dhamma and then sadhu.
Yes. Okay. Sadhu. Okay.